I'm Marty Hatley, a patient safety advocate and a principal at H2PI, the Healthcare and Patient Partnership Institute. With me today is my colleague, Armando Nahum. We want to share our thoughts about interviewing people who apply to be on a Patient and Family Advisory Council on Quality and Safety, or PFACS. Hi, Armando. Let's start with what we learned about interviews.
Hi, Marty. Well, first and foremost, never ever skip the interview. Not if you know the person, not if the person is referred to you by a trusted source, not if you got an ambitious schedule. The interview is always worth the time.
Armando, why is it so crucial?
You know, there are several reasons. First, PFACs have a particular purpose as set forth in the charter that you and I have discussed to improve quality and safety. The interview is the place to make sure that a candidate understands that clearly and also understands what it is not. The PFAC is not a place to pursue your business agenda or the agenda of an organization that you're involved with. And it's certainly not the place to pursue a complaint about your experience with the hospital, because there are other avenues for that. Secondly, requiring an interview sends the message that the PFAC is important. It's not a casual volunteer opportunity. It's a commitment one makes to attend, contribute, and help the healthcare organization to be the best it can be. We found that when people are appointed without being interviewed, they tend to feel that they are entitled to serve on it, and that can affect a person's commitment, their attitude, or their attendance. Third, the interview is a time to get to know the candidate. Even if you know the person, the application and interview process almost always lead to a new information or insights. For example, about the candidate's personal experience, what's deeply important to them, how they think they can help the hospital, and so on. And then finally, I would say that the interviews are rewarding for the interviewers. Hospital staff hear generally more complaints than compliments. And we find that people who take the time to apply and interview for a PFAC are often deeply appreciative because of some experience they've had or because of the organizations giving them an opportunity to contribute to quality and safety. But Marty, what would you add to that?
Armando, I'd add that the interview is an opportunity to check out a candidate's communication style. We've seen people who write a really good application on paper, but in the interview, it seems that they are not good listeners, or as you mentioned, might think that they're entitled to be there. And you don't really get that until you sit down with them in the same room and see their communication style. The interview also allows interviewers to probe about whether the candidate has other agendas beyond the PFAC's purpose. For example, we've seen candidates who want to serve because they are a leader on a community organization that might be at odds in some way with the healthcare organization that's building the PFACs. We've also seen consultants or others that want to have more of a business relationship with a hospital or an organization, and they see the PFACs as a way to make contacts. We've also seen on the staff side, staff who apply because they think it will be good for their career path. I don't see these other agendas as necessarily bad, but we should know about them because they can be problematic. It is good to know about them in the future so we can watch out for them. I also want to highlight the question we ask in the interview about conflicts of interest. I feel that question encourages them to tell us about a complaint they have or a grievance they might have made or even a lawsuit they might have brought, things that they think of as conflicts of interest. And I hope it sends a message by asking that question that we're open to hearing about something they think could be a conflict. You've said this before, and I totally agree that finding and engaging people who've had problems with the hospital adds real value because they're often the most constructive and enthusiastic doers and people who are there because they want to see change. So I don't want to exclude people with this conflict of interest question. The more I want to really welcome them to tell us about things that motivate them to come, especially if they've had a bad experience. Armando, we've also had some differences in opinion along the way about how to conduct interviews. What do you think is the best way to conduct an interview?
I'm glad you asked that question because I like to see multiple interviewers, preferably 3. You get different perspectives that way. But with that said, 3 on 1 can also feel intimidating. So the interview team should set this up as welcoming and conversational. I always recommend the interviewer to set up a round table. This allows the applicant, especially from the community side, to feel much more comfortable and not intimidated. And I also think it works best when the same members of the project team do all the interviews I think it helps with consistency and it helps them balance all the personalities and backgrounds to get the best mix. But I know that you've had some alternative experiences, right, Marty?
Yes, Armando, but I agree with you pretty completely. I do think the interviews are a way to engage project team members. And so I like the idea of opening up the interview process to project team members that have already done a good deal of work in this project. And as we've said before, it's because this can be a rewarding experience. So I'd like to create that opportunity for them. So if you want to bring a project team member in for 1 or 2 interviews, even though they can't make time to do them all, we've seen that work. I'm thinking especially of somebody in the medical staff or perhaps a C-suite member who's following the process, wants to be a part of it, but you're never going to get them to be there for, all 20 interviews or how many ever you do. I also wanted to mention that we built a PFAX once for a client who devoted 2 solid days to interviews and booked more than 20 candidates back to back over those 2 solid days. So 2 of the project team members that interviewed everyone were the same, and the 3rd interviewer slot rotated. It was a really intense 2 days, but it led to really thoughtful decisions about selecting for diversity and balance of personality types. That was a situation where we had many good candidates, and we had to make some tough decisions about who was slightly better or slightly a better fit than others. And I think having that kind of immersion experience in the interviewing helped. So I just throw that out there as an alternative. Armando, once again, this chat was fun and a nice way to recap what we've seen work especially well. Thank you.
Thanks, Marty. I enjoyed it too.